We'll go ahead and call the Marsh County Special Call Meeting to order September 17th, 2021. We'll go ahead. I'm going to jump to the rural water interlocal agreement resolution. Y'all should have gotten that. If anybody's got any questions, I know Roger's on Zoom. Good morning, Roger.
Hi, Judge. How you doing?
Good. Basically, there's two options. The court can approve it. Actually, there's three: not approve it, or not do anything. And if we don't do anything, it's by statute. It's as if we approved it. But does anybody got any questions for Roger as far as what the interlocal agreement is?
I called him the other day,
Okay,
and
so
he
you guys
was
know.
telling me it was about what it was about. So, and just so I'm clear, Roger, I think I am, but we have no financial liability by signing this agreement.
It's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Roger? No.
No.
He is
He may
very
be
still.
he may be frozen, but yes, you're right. The way I read it as well is that there's no obligation financially by the court. I think this is a statutory language that we have to approve it.
I spoke to him yesterday as well, and that's what he indicated to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move we approve it. Huh?
He said, hang on a second.
Oh.
All right, there's a motion to approve it. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The key is, we had 30 days by the statute to have a decision or to make a decision. Okay. I see CMS here. We'll move on to the next one, which is the Miracle League bids. And they did come in. Brittany, do you want to comment on that? Brittany's going to be out of town next week, so that's why we put this on here with the.
Okay. So the bids did come in on Miracle League. I know I've talked to both of you about this already. My suggestion, let me start here. I've talked to CFSB since I spoke to you all yesterday. Their preference would be for us to go ahead with the construction without the concessions and restroom building so that we can have the field, we can get the league started, and then try to keep fundraising and find a way to fund that building itself. So if you take it down to that kind of configuration of the bids that came in, we could get it down to $544,858. That would be Pinnacle's bid. And that would get us, essentially that would get us a field to play on.
And something for the court to think about. She's going to be out of town next week. We do have court on Tuesday, and I wanted to make sure that we got this presented with her here. So if we don't want to take any action today, we can actually take action on Tuesday. So
Okay.
that's why.
That's good.
Because I think most of the time these bids have like a expiration date on it. Is that right?
30 days.
30 days. Yeah.
And we've got that in writing from CFSB, that what their preference is.
Yes,
right?
that was in an email that was sent to me, that was their preference. You know, it's one of those, this is one of those things where, you know, the base bid, that base bid specifically came in at $829,000, so it was way over what we had expected. So that's why we're kind of having to try to break this down now and figure out a way to even still do anything, just because the bids did come in so much higher than what was anticipated.
Okay. So, let me do that. So, your suggestion is would be the base plus alt
one.
bid one,
alt 3,
minus alt 3,
minus alt 4,
minus 4,
minus alt 6, and minus alt 7.
So we would, let me think about
And
this.
the reason that is my suggestion is because that's the only way we can get it covered with the amount of money that we have.
So to make sure I
And we have,
understand.
and the bids that we have allow us to look at what you just suggested, right? From
Yes,
from
yeah, these
everybody.
are all of the bids that came in.
Okay.
So just so I'm clear here, that would, all right, so that would have us with the field, fence around the field, right?
Kurt, do you want to speak exactly to all of the distinctions on this?
Because, like, if we do, well, okay.
So let me distribute to you a little narrative here that might help you to understand a little more explanation. So the process that occurred, to be clear, was we had a bid
Oh, wait,
opening.
is that the same?
Maybe it is.
Okay.
So we had a bid opening that included two alternate bids, which were both additive to the base bid. And then, following that, because the bids all exceeded the budget allowed, we put out an addenda and included alternate bids 3 through 7, which were all deductive. So this is excerpts from some of that information, but within these excerpts, you see descriptions, more detailed descriptions of what each alternate included.
No, I was going to ask you, you talking about.
Within these.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Within these here, okay.
So I've highlighted each alternate, and then there's a description, narrative description of it. There's also some graphic information that was included to assist the contractors with that pricing. But if you want to reiterate what you said, Mr. Collins, I'll try to follow along and make sure that I'm in agreement.
Well, I'm just trying to, I guess,
Understand what the end.
yeah,
result-
yes, because we're not used to having to pick and choose, you know. So
I do,
it's
I do.
totally different than what I'm thinking. So I'm obviously not. I don't have the actual bid to see what all is in the 829. What I have is yours and BFW's opinion of cost from December. And so
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out, okay, what all of those line items, if you could tell me.
Do you have a copy of this bid tabulation?
I have that, yes. But what I'm saying is it would be, I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is what is in the what's in the 829 at least that I know. Is it everything?
The 829 would have represented the entire project scope as we originally.
So every bit of this, it would
Everything
have
would have been included.
on the
save-
competitive bid.
Save alt bid 1 and 2. Oh, I'm sorry, and in reference to that opinion of cost.
Yes.
What that would have included would have been under the competitive bid column. Yes,
Okay.
all of those items stayed within the project scope. And then there's a column there that was to be owner provided, which would have rounded out the project. And then there's a column that says future, which would have not been provided within what we were currently looking at this time.
Okay.
So yes, following along the competitive bid column of that and the items and descriptions that would have all been within the work scope of the base bid, save what we broke out initially as alternate bid 1 and 2, which were additive elements to that.
Okay. So
Is the increase in building materials, is that what's driven us up on the
So
pricing on this?
I can't give a real specific, but generally, yes. The last 12, 18 months, 24 months, construction industry is just like all the other entities that you've worked with and dealing with, and it is market-driven, and it is been fluctuating greatly and mostly in its basic form. My personal opinion, I'm not an economist, but it's a supply and demand thing. I will say that I haven't scrutinized these numbers in great detail, but I have looked at them a little bit since we got these alternate bids, and quite honestly, our concessions building fell in line pretty closely.
Yeah.
If you look at, for example, the alt bid 7, which
Yeah.
is the deductive alternate, which represents that entire concessions building,
Mm-hmm.
and you compare it to our budget, we were percentage-wise pretty good.
Yep.
And a lot of the numbers, that was true. For example, that was true also for the parking lot lighting. We were within a good number there. The entrance signage, we had one bid there that was 25.9. Our budget was 25,000. The other two pricing doubled that. So obviously that's a pretty big increase. That's doubling that number. I really feel like most of the cost, quite honestly, was in the civil work, the paving. And I think that may have had to do with the fact, and it was a means to an end, but the coordination of a portion of that being done in-house, I think the dirt work contractors erred on the side in their estimating of additional rock fill and things to the higher side. And then I think there could have been, and this is pure speculation, I think there could have been some concern on their part for the asphalt work that's associated with the field, because unlike a general driveway or parking lot, it's basically the same asphalt, but it has to perform and function at a much higher level because being the playing surface, the elevations have to be more precise. And obviously, any cracking separation was going to mirror right through to the rubberized finish. So I think there could have been a little concern in that particular subcontractor. And that's just my opinion, of course.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so with that being said, and I totally noticed exactly what you're talking about, which is that we're really close on the concessions, but just it's all in that other 395 would have been more like 500, I guess, or 5 something. But all right, so if we went with what Brittany suggests, then is there any way that you could tell me, and maybe you've already looked at it, but with your opinion of cost, then what of the owners section would definitely be cut out? Do you have your old
I believe I
opinion?
do.
Okay. Okay, I'm still trying to figure out.
Can you repeat, Brittany, the alternates that you were considering? It was 1,
3, 4, 6, and 7.
okay. So within the owner's portion of that work scope, bear with me one moment.
And while he's doing that, Brittany, the reason 5 is not mentioned is because you either do 5 or 7.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, 5 doesn't,
It's
it's an either or, so, okay. And the lighting, the parking area lighting, which is 6, it's just the parking area lighting, though. It's not the lighting that is mentioned under the baseball field section, right?
We also, I believe, and Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that we included lighting on the baseball field in this bid. That was one of the things that we had already cut to try to cut costs. Is that correct?
That is
everybody-
correct.
Okay.
And you're seeing that in that opinion of cost, but I think that was one of the latter changes that were made as we entered into the last of the bidding phase,
That makes a big difference.
was to move out that field.
So we moved out 75,000 and we were still over by
Well,
200
Let me ask
something?
you the opinion of cost you're looking at. Is it
Okay.
dated 12/21
Yeah.
revision
Ye-
5?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not. There was another revision. This is revision 4.
Yeah, I've got 4
Okay.
also.
I'm sorry, there was a revision 5 dated April 28th
Uh,
that was issued. The 77,700 was moved over into a future column.
oh,
We left in,
now, I see the 77.7 on mine
I'm
is
sorry,
park
75
amenities. Okay.
75,000.
The 75 was moved?
to the future.
Okay. Yeah, that, I've got revision 4.
Okay.
Um,
To answer your previous question, so the owner's work scope that would remain, and I'm going to reference the opinion of cost. So there was spectator bleachers, there was an audio system, and there was scoreboards in the first category for baseball fields at the top.
okay.
All of that would still be, could still be applicable, obviously, the bleachers particularly.
What was the audio system? Because it's not on mine.
Okay, the audio system was just line item at $1,500.
$1,500,
Sort of
okay.
a lump sum.
Okay. And then 35 on the scoreboards.
The
Yes.
scoreboard, though, has been donated completely, so that can be taken off completely.
Oh.
I got that donated at 100%.
So then under concessions and sidewalks, there was a total of 52,000 that was to be owner, 52,750 to be owner provided. That number will be reduced, but some portion of that will still be applicable, but not anything that was addressing the concession area, we could
Right.
probably shorten up. So there hasn't been a configuration determined.
But
Exactly.
that'd be a max anyway,
That
we
would be
would
a
know.
max,
Okay,
correct.
but leave that in. Okay,
Correct.
all right.
And then basically on the fourth category, the parking lot and drainage, I believe all of that is still applicable,
Okay,
the 126,845 total.
okay. All right, so that gets us to. Okay. Or well, I just have an easier time subtracting. Well, I'm not taking anything out of that, are we? Well, no, the 35,000. So we're taking two,
Yeah,
Right.
If you leave the concession sidewalk concrete as a max.
Yeah.
It would just be the 35,000 that would come out. There could be a slight amount under that.
oh. Hey, that's where the 187,495 came from. Okay, I just don't have the right revision, so I was trying to figure that out. All right. Okay, so our owners' stuff would stay the same, essentially.
Within 10.
By.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that doesn't really.
So the owner's portion of the parking lot asphalt, I assume that's coming out?
No. All that's staying. Right? Or is it?
So we had 5,000, are you referring to where it says asphalt parking lot?
Yes.
We had 55,220, 1160. I'm going to have to apologize and say I don't specifically recall what that was referencing. I'm thinking,
At wh-
I believe in the end,
Just,
what we
it has to be a
decided.
small amount.
Well, what I think we did was the parking lot, all the asphalt came off the parking lot, but we had to do a small portion for handicap parking in order to
Okay.
achieve the accessibility
Okay.
aspect of that. I think we really were intending that was going to be concrete instead of
Concrete.
asphalt.
Okay.
to
Thank
tie into the sidewalk.
To tie into the sidewalk
Okay.
and make that ADA compliant.
Okay.
And that's something that we can't because of ADA requirements. We have to have that.
So we'll add and clarify to make sure everyone understands that these values that we're speaking of are all construction cost direct values, but there are a few other expenses beyond that, such as my fees. There's some reimbursable costs that have been incurred for printing and advertising, and you will need to enter into a third-party agreement with a special inspection and testing contractor. And I apologize, I have a quote for you on that, and then I ran off and forgot it. I'm thinking it's around 7,500. I'm shooting from the hip, and I apologize for that. But it's going to be important because, as I stated earlier, with the dirt work being self-performed and then the civil contractor then being responsible for the performance of the asphalt, when we place the dirt under the field, particularly, I'm thinking, we want to make sure that's all tested and verified and its compaction is what it's supposed to be before otherwise we could turn into a situation where we have failure and it's going to be very difficult to identify responsibility. So that's the purpose of that testing, and that would be outside of these values.
Like I said, we can have today as far as it being presented and take action on Tuesday. And that way, if you want to bring that, if you've got that.
Absolutely, I could get those values to you. I do have them. I just forgot.
Yeah.
You're going to send us a revision 5 as well?
Yes,
Can you get that to us, please?
I can do that.
Okay. And third-party inspection document, please.
Yes. Were you, with that handout, did that help clarify the scope of the alternates a little better?
Well,
I know it is.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the challenge of trying to understand what the
Yeah.
end result is being proposed here.
mm-hmm.
If I need to add anything to that, I certainly will try.
Okay. It'll give me something to look at, more than what I had before anyway. I'm not much of a, unlike my nephew, I'm not one of those that can see it, you know?
Well, I can do this as well. There was some graphic information that supplemented it, and I can forward that on to you as
Okay.
well. So that might help paint the picture a little better.
You're saying graphics like with those alts out?
So what we did was we took the original drawings that were
Okay.
created to define and show all of that, and then they were amended primarily by note to help communicate what the changes were.
Okay.
So, quite honestly, they mostly were applicable to, I think it was number 6, wherein we were making changes to the concession building, such as omitting the brick and revising the metal.
Oh.
They were mostly pertinent to that, because these other alternates were pretty much omit in their entirety.
Yeah.
Omit the signage in its entirety, omit the
Dugout.
in its entirety. So there wasn't a lot of graphic to that, other
Okay.
than a note saying, not applicable.
Just scrap it, yeah, okay. Okay. Well, if you don't mind to send it, it
I
can't
certainly
hurt,
will. I
so,
certainly will.
questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do y'all have any other questions for me as far as the amounts right now on the park accounts? I did check that before I came. So for our foundation accounts and our Miracle League account combined, we are at a total of $580,763 in those accounts combined right now.
5 what?
580,763.
580, 763.
Yes.
Okay,
580,763.
all right, I
Yeah.
got you. Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I will say, there are some things that we'll need to keep some reserve in those accounts for. The hardened building, a few things like that I won't need to completely take those accounts down to zero. Definitely, we'll need to keep some in there for some of those other expenses, but the largest majority of that.
The other facilities that we own, the foundation account, make sure I understand what you're saying, is because when there's costs associated with some of the other facilities that we own, that should be looked at outside the foundation account, in my opinion, because we have our general funds and monies. So I want to make sure that we're not dipping into the foundation account for our other assets that typically we pull from our general funds. So that way, the core of this dollar amount goes to
Projects.
yeah. Well, right now, the biggest project is Miracle League.
Yes.
I mean, other projects I would think, take a little backseat to what we're trying to do with the Miracle League. But I just want to make sure I throw that out there, that we're aware of that. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Brittany.
guys.
Thank you, Brittany.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
All right. So we don't need to take action today. We can wait till Tuesday, have the weekend to review what we just heard today. So appreciate your time, and I apologize for being about 20 minutes late. But anybody got any questions?
No, I think that was all of mine.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.